going to show you how to make a Snuffle Mat. These are for feeding animals, cats or dogs, and the way they work is you put the kibble on the mat and it gets stuck in the fleece, and then it becomes a little foraging activity for your animal. So I'm going to show you how to make this circle today. There is also a cat-shaped template available, and you can find both these templates for free in the link in the description. So this cat one, I designed it to look like a cat, but it kind of looks like a Yorkie too, so that's cute. And this one is knotted, so there are two techniques, and then this one is just fleece that's cut. So I'm going to show you how to make this one, but the techniques are really similar. So to get started, you just need to cut out 2 layers from the template you want with a canvas fabric, just something a little bit sturdier than cotton. And then on one side I fused fusible interfacing. So fuse fusible interfacing on one side, and then we're going to pin these together, and we'll use a 3/8 inch seam allowance all the way around, just leaving about 2 or 3 inches to turn it. And if you're doing the cat shape, we'll do the same exact thing. And for the circle, obviously you just leave a space on the side. For the cat shape, I like to leave the space right up at the top because it's a little bit straight. For when you turn it, it's a little easier. So pin this up and sew around the whole circle at 3/8 inch. After you've sewn all the way around, we're gonna trim the seam allowance down to 1/4 inch and then clip into it to give it a good curve. I will say this step's not actually necessary because we'll cover the entire circle with felt, so you won't really be able to see this part, but if you do want it to look a little bit nicer, that is how we'll make the curve look a little smoother. So do that, and then turn your mat right side out. Turn your mat right side out, press it, and then top stitch around the circle 1/8 inch from the edge. And then this is your base mat. Because we have enclosed the edges, we can wash this if you want to. So once you have your base mat, we're going to start by taking our strips of fleece. So these are 4.5 inches wide by the length of the bolt, and I cut off the little edge that is a little bit rounded. Just cut off your edges so you have a nice straight edge. So this will be almost 60 inches. There are a few different ways. So if you're doing the cat one, or if you want to do a circle one with knots, cut the strip 6 inches wide. That gives you some room to tie a knot. So the next step is fold this in half, and we are going to pin around the circle. Now if you're going to do this mat where you cut your fleece in there flat like this, you're going to pin the fold down and sew it on. If you want to do loops instead, so it's a little trickier, you're going to fold this in half same way, but sew the raw edges down. So I'm going to do that for this version. And just the method you use will depend on your animal. If your dog's maybe a little bit older or lazy, this is a good one because the kibble can't really get lost too much. But if your dog has a lot of energy, this one's really good because the kibble will really get in there, and it'll take longer for them to find it. It'll be a little bit more of a challenge. So for this one, I'm just going to sew these on. So you can do it this way, or you can do it this way, depending on how you want your loops to fall. So I'm going to try it this way this time. Sew it all the way around, and then when you get back to where you started, I'm just going to continue on, move this out of the way, and continue sewing in a spiral. And if you run out, you want to change your color, we'll put it on right next to it. We're going to clip these anyways, so don't worry about the seam there. It'll just continue like that. Okay, so I sewn that whole strip on. You'll see I started here, sewed it all around the edge, and when I got back to where I started, I just moved this out of the way and continued on. So we're creating kind of a spiral on the back. You can see the spiral. And then I ran out of this strip right here. So when you run out, you have option to change color or continue with your same color. And I am just gonna change to blue and mix it up a little bit. So I'm gonna do the same thing and just start sewing again in that spiral until this runs out, and I'll change colors again. All right, so when you finish sewing all the way into the center, we're gonna clip the fleece into smaller little pieces that'll kind of look like petals. This, just to mention, in the middle, it gets a little tricky in here, so don't worry if you have tucks in your fabric or anything, you're not gonna be able to notice later. So for the looped one, we're just gonna clip it down to about 1/4 inch from the seam there. You don't wanna clip all the way. And also when you're sewing and you stop, make sure you back stitch so that this will be washable. Since dogs and dog food can get kind of smelly, you want it to be washable so that you can continue using it. So we're just gonna clip about 1 inch wide all the way around, and don't worry if they're not perfect. And once you've done that, your mat will be done. So continue clipping, but don't clip all the way through. And I'll show you the back. This is what the back will look like of your mat. So after you've clipped all the loops, this is what your mat will look like. And you just put the kibble on top, and it'll sink down and be a fun toy for your dogs. And these are fine for cats too. So the 3 options for finishing it are loops, like I showed you, or just flat kind of petals. And the only difference there is the direction you sew the loop on. And then the last option is ties. For this one I made the strips wider, but then I also sewed in the middle of the strip. And that way I was able to clip it and tie them into knots. So there's 3 different ways to finish it, and they're kind of like, this is easy, this is maybe more difficult, and this is extra hard because sometimes the kibble or treats will go into the loops. So depending on the energy of your dog or cat, you can choose which one to make. So find the templates on my website.